Steel City. Is everybody ready to go? It's Proclaim the greatest radio show.
It is finally here, week 1 of the NFL season. I am Jim Sella. J-Dash is sitting beside me. This is The Spread. We got your Steelers, Washington Redskins official preview episode, not the one we did like 8 weeks ago.
Yeah.
This is official. That one was just because we were bored and there was nothing else to talk about and we need to fill time so you people listen.
Yeah, we couldn't finish the preseason previews, though.
Well, we don't need to do preseason previews because it's the regular season, so people don't even care about those anymore. All they want to know about is week 1. The preseason's over. Thank God. The Steelers have lost like 15 preseason games in the last, I don't even know how many years. But I don't really care because they're garbage. Preseason's garbage, not the Steelers. And it means nothing other than evaluating talent.
I agree with that, but the Washington Redskins went 3-1 in this preseason.
What did he do? They played their starters when everybody played their backups.
Well, they got to see what they can get out of these starters, man. It's not like they have a high-flying offense, although they are decent. They got some names out there. Deshaun Jackson's always been a good receiver. But the one to me is Jordan Reed. That guy is a beast, and if he can just stay healthy, you know, he's had some injury problems over the years. If he can stay healthy, he showed last season, man, this guy is a beast, and that's something the Steelers defense has always had a little bit of trouble with is those tight ends, and I think he's the guy that they're going to try to get the ball to 9 or 10 times in this game.
So obviously everybody hears about Martavis Bryant being suspended. We all heard about Bell being suspended. Now you have Hayward's high ankle sprain. You have Gilbert has an elbow issue. You have Bud Dupree, who was just put on IR today for the short-term IR, the 6 to 8 week or whatever.
Same as Ladarius Green, yeah.
Well, Ladarius Green was put on the PUP list, so he's not on the IR list. He's on the PUP list, and they are just the same time frame.
Oh, okay, well, same
so
thing.
It works out. Yeah, it's the same thing. We're kind of just stashing those two guys there. Have the Steelers lost too much? I mean, on paper now, they don't jump out at you like they did before all this happened.
Obviously not, but you'll get Le'Veon back in a few weeks, and it's all about Big Ben. He's still healthy and going to play, so that's the big key here.
Now, Sammy Coates, according to what I've seen at least the last couple days, has not leapfrogged Marcus Wheaton for the number 2 spot on the depth chart. That was one of the big topics of conversation coming into the preseason. Not that Coates didn't show that he could play. It's just it's hard for a receiver to come in and really know everything and be able to know all the option routes and know all the calls at the line because we're going to be running a lot of no huddle. That's a lot for a young guy. I didn't expect him to be able to do it right away. He might still be able to do it as the season goes on and he learns more. So I'm not totally surprised by that move. But that also doesn't mean you're not going to see a lot of Sammy Coates because we're going to run a lot of 3 wide receiver sets.
Yeah, and I want to see if Eli Rogers gets involved at all as well.
So would you say Coates and Rogers are like 3A and 3B?
As of right now, yeah, I'd like one of them to take the number 2 spot and the other to take the number 3 spot over Wheaton.
So you just want Wheaton out of here. You're just shipping him out.
I mean, not
later,
necessarily.
200 yards against the Seahawks, but you're garbage.
Well, that's all you really did do. But still, I mean, I've always told you Marcus Wheaton, I like him as a number 4. But I tell you what, if the Steelers let him go, I bet you somebody would give him a shot as their number 2.
Yeah, kind of like Emmanuel Sanders got in Denver whenever they let him walk.
Although Emmanuel Sanders was a better receiver, I believe.
Agreed. Wheaton is a different type of receiver. He's that solid guy that will probably have a long NFL career, but he'll probably bounce around to a couple teams. Similar to an Anquan Bolden, just not quite as talented. Maybe just a poor man's Anquan Bolden.
Oh, Anquan's a beast.
Now, all this said about these injuries, that doesn't mean the Steelers won't still compete early in the season. They found a way to do it. Like you said, they still have Ben Roethlisberger. They still have Antonio Brown. D'Angelo Williams still showed last year that he was able to tote the rock.
Jesse James.
There's a lot of question marks around Jesse James, but I mean, the young outlaw could step up and play a bigger role. Can he handle the physical part of the game and the blocking assignments and all the calls? The biggest thing with the young offense is just knowing the offense with the fast pace that Roethlisberger wants to run this year. The biggest thing for the defense is it going to be Robert Golden, probably at safety? Is it going to be Artie Burns? No, we've seen that because of the injuries. So you're going to see Ross Cockrell and Willie Gay on the outside. Sean Davis, you expect to see in some role, whether it's slot corner or in a safety position. And now what do they do at the outside linebacker position with Bud Dupree being out for 6 to 8 weeks? You got Moats, who's most likely going to start out there now. You still have Timmons and Shazier in the middle. Shazier's had injury issues recently, early, whatever you want to call it, in his career. You have Jarvis Jones, who struggled to really get it going as a first-round pick, and the 53-year-old James Harrison.
Believe it.
So, as much as I love our linebackers were great because we had a lot of them that were able to play. You take one out of that rotation, and suddenly each one has to play more. Is that going to hurt?
Well, I'd have to believe Bud Dupree was supposed to take a big step forward this season, so the fact that he's probably not going to at this point really hurts. I mean, he still could later in the season, but it's going to be a slower process in my opinion, and maybe it does take another year for Dupree.
Now, the silver lining to this, and I'm not going to buy into it like some people, is hard. You could get Dupree back, say, mid-season, get some practices under his belt, maybe fresh legs, he gets that motor going around playoff time if the Steelers can get to that level, with all the injuries and suspensions and everything this year. So if you do get a good run out of him, it'll probably be right around playoff time, which could be beneficial to the Steelers. But obviously, you want him out there all season long to help you get to that point and beyond.
Yeah, and the defensive backs are going to have to step up early in this season, and they did just bring in Justin Gilbert, a guy that we wanted the Pittsburgh Steelers to draft a few years ago. He never worked out with Cleveland, obviously. But like you said before, it's hard to be a corner in the NFL to begin with, but when you have a team that doesn't coach up their corners very well, it makes it even tougher. And Gilbert could come in here and be a good corner. I mean, we had high expectations for Brandon Boykin last year, and he never really did much at all. But I kind of like Justin Gilbert more, but I still got to see it first because we have to learn from what Boykin did do last year.
I agree that it's a wait and see approach, but Gilbert has a much better pedigree than what Boykin did. And another thing that I think affected Gilbert's play out in Cleveland is the offense was just horrific his 2 years there. They couldn't control the ball. The defense was on the field constantly. And you mix that in with the poor coaching and the fact that nobody else around him on the defense was really that good, honestly. The opportunity to succeed is definitely there for Gilbert. Even if he lives up to a third-round pick, what you would expect out of a third-round pick, we're only giving up a sixth-round pick for this guy. So it's a win for us. It's a win for the Browns if they get anything out of him because they were probably just going to cut him. But this is a big thing. Again, he's going to have to learn the defense. It's not going to be on Monday when we play the Redskins. I mean, anybody can get a pick if they get playing time. I just don't expect him to get a lot of playing time right away. Boykin didn't even see the field other than special teams for like the first 2 or 3 weeks he was here. So Gilbert's impact will most likely be as the season progresses, but it's definitely a chance for it to be there.
Well, we'll have to see how the defense looks to start the season here. We remember last year
against New England. I don't want to remember last year's defense in the first week.
But looking at the Washington Redskins, they got Matt Jones at running back. Now, I do still trust, even without Bud Dupree or whatever, the Steelers' run defense to be pretty good this season, and I expect them to be good in this game. I think they can shut down Matt Jones. But you also got to worry about Chris Thompson in the passing game. This is a guy that can do big things with the ball in open space. And Kirk Cousins, we'll have to see if he can repeat what he did last year. I mean, this is a guy that helped them win the division. And like I said, Jordan Reed, he's the one that I want to look out for most in this offense. But you also got Deshaun Jackson and Pierre Garçon. So I think this is going to be a pass-heavy offense this season, to tell you the truth, besides games where really there is no run defense going up against them and Matt Jones can do his thing. But the way I see it here, most of their talent is in the passing game, so I think they're going to have to rely on Kirk Cousins this season, and I don't know if that's good or not. I don't exactly trust him to take it to the next level necessarily. I mean, he's a good quarterback and everything. I don't expect him to become an elite quarterback, though. And I think even though the Steelers have some questions defensively right now, they'll be able to handle this offense in this game.
I'm interested to see the biggest matchup, Josh Norman versus Antonio Brown. Can Norman back up the smack talk he always has, which he hasn't been saying anything about Antonio, which is probably a smart move. Who's going to win that battle? Is it going to be Antonio Brown? We seen when Roethlisberger was out last year, Brown struggled a little bit with Landry Jones at quarterback. The 5 for 50 streak ended. He just had a couple subpar for Antonio Brown standard games. Will he step up and torch Josh Norman? Because pretty much since Brown arrived on the scene, not necessarily his rookie year, but I mean arrived as become elite, him and Roethlisberger have just tormented everybody.
Yeah, definitely, and we'll have to see about Josh Norman too. I mean, when you go from one team to the next, it's not all peaches and cream every time. I mean, sometimes you actually fade out as a corner when you go from one team to the next. But he is going to have to be a big part of this defense this year. They were actually in the bottom third of the league in yards allowed last season, and they were 17th in points per game allowed with 23.7. So they do need to take a step up defensively this season. They drafted a wide receiver in the first round. Then they drafted a safety and a corner in the third round,
Yeah.
Fuller.
Kendall Fuller, I think it was.
Yeah, the second round pick was Sua Cravens from USC, a safety, and Kendall Fuller, was a corner in the third round from Virginia Tech. And actually, they went in with their next pick, which was a fifth round pick. They drafted a D tackle as well. So you can see they did have some questions about their defense going into the draft, and hopefully for them, they get a little bit better this season. And Kirk Cousins can repeat what he did last year, and they should have a chance to win that division because let's face it.
Yeah, their division's terrible.
Yeah, exactly.
The Cowboys are garbage. They're going to have to start Mark Sanchez. And then you have the Giants who, I don't know. They're the biggest question mark. Yeah.
I think that's the
wild card, I should call them, not question mark, the Giants.
Well, yeah, I think they're going to give them the best run for their money this season. It's going to be Washington and the Giants.
Philly just traded the guy they've been grooming for their starting position for like the last 10, 12 weeks.
They're going with Chase Daniel as their starter?
Yeah, Chase Daniel, and now Wentz is the number 2, so you probably going to see Wentz at some point in time in the season, you would think, whereas if they kept Bradford that you wouldn't.
And speaking of the division, the Washington Redskins, after the Steelers game, plays the Cowboys and Giants. So let's hope they're thinking about the division going into this first game.
It's going to be tough because Pittsburgh's on the road. We've struggled a little bit offensively on the road under Roethlisberger and Tomlin. The thing that we have working for the Steeler fans is we usually play well on Monday night, really on any prime time. Historically, going back to Chuck Noll's time, Bill Cowher did well, Mike Tomlin's done well.
But how has Tomlin done in week 1?
Bad. He's definitely got a below 500 record. I'm almost positive on that in week 1.
All I remember, it was bad last year.
I mean, it's been bad. We don't win a lot in week 1, but it is what it is. All the suspensions, all the injuries, the Steelers are really going to have to step up and overcome some of these obstacles. I think it's a very evenly matched game considering we're on the road. Washington's at home. They went on a run last year at the end of the season, especially at home. Kirk Cousins played very well at home most of the year. Can he repeat that performance? I don't know. It's going to be a good test against our defense because I don't want to say we didn't upgrade it, but we upgraded it with a lot of youth. So time will tell how the upgrade is going. In the early season, maybe a little rough, just like last year where the Steelers struggled a little bit defensively early in the year and then kind of shored it up as the season went on. We read an article too. Remember the other day I was reading it to you about questionable and probable and blah, blah, blah. I forget what category they got rid of, but basically if they're not rolled, out, then they've got like a 60 or 80% chance to play now, the way they label things. So what are the keys to victory, the first keys to victory for the season for the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Well, I said it before. Defensively, I think you have to keep an eye on Jordan Reed. Definitely. I think they have a little bit of trouble stopping a tight end, and I think this guy is turning into one of the elite tight ends in the league. Now, you remember the big-time receivers, the Steelers do get beat by a lot, and Deshaun Jackson's a guy that can go down the field, and Kirk Cousins can get him the ball. So I wouldn't be surprised if Deshaun Jackson beat them a couple times. But we also know when the number 1 receiver beats you, they seem to shut everything else down and still be able to play a solid defensive game. So I'm not really worried about Deshaun Jackson. I think you really got to look out for Jordan Reed, though. I think they're going to try to get him a ball a ton in this game. And offensively, I'd like to see the run game work. I want to see the run game work for the first few games this season without Le'Veon Bell because there are questions of whether D'Angelo can repeat what he did last season, and I want to see that get going quick. I don't think that one of these receivers are going to step into that number 2 role immediately. I don't even think Marcus Wheaton is going to be a number 2 receiver all season long. I think he's going to be up and down just like Sammy Coates and Eli Rogers. Hopefully he'll get involved enough to be up and down this season. We still have there's still a question of whether or not Eli does get into the game as the season goes along, get more involved in this offense. But I think just get this run game going offensively and look out for Jordan Reed defensively.
I think it's a little similar to last season, the first game, whereas you have a lot of question marks on defense, but it's a different dynamic because you're not playing the New England Patriots. You're not playing that hated Tom Brady. You don't have the suspension that got overturned and he was allowed to play all of a sudden right before the season, and you had everybody who was upset. You're going against the Washington Redskins, who, and I'm not hating on them, but I mean, they're not the New England Patriots. Let's face it, Kirk Cousins is not Tom Brady. So I think the key for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and this is for most games, all games, whatever you want to say, is score early. Take the pressure off of the defense. For our defense to succeed this year, we're going to have young players succeed. They're going to have growing pains. There's going to be good plays and bad plays. Let's take some pressure off of them by scoring early. That way, if they do get beat by Deshaun Jackson down the field, they're not like, oh snap, we're going to lose the game because I just gave up this touchdown. Instead of it being 7-0, 14-0 Washington, it's 14-7, 21-7 Pittsburgh. And that doesn't mean they're going to score in the first 3 possessions or whatever. But they got to get points consistently. Control the ball offensively through the passing game. I'm not saying don't go downfield. Mix it up a little. These young receivers mixed with Marcus Wheaton. We both agree that none of them have really grabbed that number 2 spot yet. Well, spread the field. Let all 4 of them play. Work the ball to each one differently, individually. Let them fill a role if they can't, grab that number 2 spot. Let them all have their part on the team. I think Roethlisberger's the right guy to do that, and I think the offense will succeed in that right if they go that route. Defensively, I want Ryan Shazier to step up. I'm not saying he hasn't played well. I'm not even hating on him for being hurt. I'm one of the guys that stick up for him and say he's not injury prone because of the type of injuries he sustained. But he really needs to be a difference maker. The reason the Steelers were so good when Troy Polamalu was in his prime was because of Troy Polamalu, defensively anyway. He made plays almost every single game, whether it was an interception, a tip pass, a big hit, a sack, something. You always heard Troy's name, seen a highlight of Troy from every game. We need somebody like that on our defense. We need somebody that can really put, their helmet down, not literally because it's a penalty anymore, but just drive through people, make big plays, get this team fired up, and lead these young guys. And I know Shazier's young in his own right, but we just need it. We need somebody out there leading by example, by making the big plays, not just by being a rah-rah guy in the locker room.
Antonio Brown, over or under 115 yards?
Over. I think he's going to do it big all year. I think if anybody's ever had a chance at 2,000 this year, it's going to be Julio and Brown. Damn. The 2,000-yard chase this year receiving is going to be like the home run chase between Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa.
They're both going to do it.
Bold prediction of the year. They're both going after it. They're both going to get it.
Jesse James, over or under 3 catches?
Under
3 catches.
I think more is going to be made of him, and they're going to ask him to do less right away because it's such a big jump for him.
All right, one more. D'Angelo Williams, over or under 70 yards?
Over. I think he's going to get between 90 and 100, maybe crack 100 by a little bit. I think
so. We're looking at Steeler domination here.
No, because I also think the Washington offense is going to be able to move the football a little bit. So I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think both offenses are the strength of both football teams.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see with Washington. If Norman can do what he did with Carolina, that could be a huge pickup for this defense. And like I said, they were defensive draft heavy as well. So who knows? Maybe this defense steps up and becomes a top 12, top 10 defense this season.
They got to put some pressure on the quarterback, and losing Junior Gillette again kind of hurts. Not that it keeps him out of it. It just doesn't help. What's the official prediction? Week 1, J Dash.
I'm going to say the Pittsburgh Steelers win this game on the ground. I say D'Angelo has a good game. I'm going to go with you and say he has over 70 yards rushing. I'm going to say he gets in the end zone twice in his game, and the Steelers win 27-24. It's going to be close.
I agree it's going to be close. I agree it's going to be high scoring. It's hard to predict a Steelers score because they said they're going to go for 2 even more than they did last year. They set an NFL record already last year, although it was only 11 times in 16 games, so it's not like they're doing it every time. If Roethlisberger's healthy, I could see him going for it maybe 20 times this year, which is still not a lot. I mean, considering the amount of touchdowns. It's a lot. Game. Yeah, it's definitely a lot, don't get me wrong. It's not like they're going to be going for it every single time. But I'm going to say it right around what you said, but I'm going to go 28-23. I think there could be a safety mixed in. Week 1's usually got some kind of sloppy play because the teams are still trying to get, mixed in or whatever. So you might see a weird play. You might see, a pick six or a fumble return for a touchdown or a safety. But I think the Steelers win. I think it's going to be close the whole game. I don't think the Steelers are going to run it up and then Washington's going to get some garbage time points. I think it's going to be a really competitive football game. But I think the Steelers squeak out the victory just because I think Roethlisberger's the better quarterback.
I think they got to put together some nice 75-yard drives. What did Big Easy say?
I was talking to him earlier in the week. He has the Steelers winning in a blowout, 28-10. No love for the Skins. I think he's mad at him for being racist.
I don't think he likes anyone on this team.
He loves Kirk Cousins.
Does he?
I think that's his fantasy quarterback. Isn't he drafting him 2nd overall tonight?
Yeah, Dad, wrong. He's going Antonio or Le'Veon Bell.
AB, he better not take Le'Veon. I'm taking him at 4. Everybody just needs to leave him alone.
Taking him at 4.
Yeah, Eddie B, good thing you're not drafting tonight because you're probably listening.
How about Matt Jones? Where would you take that guy? I'm actually taking Chris Thompson. Not over Matt Jones, but I'd rather just pass Matt Jones and take Chris Thompson. I think he's going to put up better fantasy numbers in PPR.
I think Matt Jones might be in that 2nd tier of running backs, but I'm not going to draft him as my starter.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Well, that's it. That is our Week 1 Steelers preview. Fans, questions, comments, hit us up on Twitter at bet_the_spread. Hit me up on Twitter at betjimthewin. Check out the Facebook page at facebook.com/betthespread. Keep coming back to YouTube. Keep clicking subscribe. Year 3 for the spread now. We started in Week 2, 2 seasons ago. We just forgot to start in Week 1. We got too excited about the beginning of the season. You ready for another great year, Dash?
Well, let's hope so. Let's hope they can stay healthy. We know there's a lot of problems to start the season here, but Ryan Shazier, you said it already, he's had some injury problems. If he goes down, man, it's getting scary.
Yeah, we can't lose much more. Keep our head above water, and then hopefully after our bye week around, week 9, I believe, hopefully we can get Bud Dupree back, maybe Ladarius Green back, start getting them guys comfortable and make that run. Go Steelers.